We are speeding.
Okay, so first question is, it's one that's, I think it's right up your alley. Why do black people deserve reparations? I know, basic question. It's one that we have to ask.
For obvious reason. For after having been having been enslaved, formerly enslaved for 360 years, then semi-enslaved for another 100 years, then benign, neglected, and politically corrected for another 50 years, then they obviously need to be need some form of reparations. And let's go back to the definition. What is reparation? Reparation means repairing the damage that has been done to black folk. Black folk have been emotionally, psychologically, physically, financially, and politically damaged for almost 500 years in this country. And someone needs to go back and be required to perform some restitution for those negatives and dangers and crippling effects that have happened to black folk. That's never occurred. So black folk need to be compensated and for all those 500 years of Jim Crow segregation and as well as former enslavement.
Okay, so what specific instances can you think of in history where black people have had things taken from us that we deserved or opportunities denied to us that would come up in a reparations conversation?
Well, that was the whole point of slavery. The whole point of slavery was the social engineer of black folk in the lowest level of a real life monopoly game, and then to maldistribute almost 100% of all this nation's resources, power, wealth, income, businesses, and controls of all levels of government into the hands of the dominant white society. And more specifically, it was done by the use of land. You see, because when this country was formalized, it set up a system for maldistribution, the control of land. When our first president, which was George Washington, at least I corrected that in one of my books, Black Labor, White Wealth, and Dirty Little Secrets. He was not really the first president, but let's say the official first president of the United States was George Washington. And when George Washington had approved the United States Constitution being ratified in 1789, the first thing he said is that I want 100,000 acres of free land. And that means in everything on that land, the timber, the gold, the silver, the chrome, the bauxite, the magnesium, or gas, oil, whatever's on there. He got 100,000 acres of free land. Then when he said that, Thomas Jefferson followed suit and said, I want 100,000 acres of free land. He got 100,000 acres of free land. Then you had Patrick Henry, who said, give me liberty and give me death. But he also said, give me some free land. He got 65,000 acres of free land. Now, and that constitutes the basis for most of the maldistribution of wealth and resources in this country, just using land as a basis. Because the immigration laws that came into effect 1 year later in 1790 set up what you call the American Dream. The American Dream was based on two things, free land and free black labor. And so every immigrant coming to this country was able to pick up 640 acres of free land just coming to the country through land rights and land grants and homesteading acts. And every slave they owned, they picked up 150 acres of free land. And then even when they set up the railroads across this country, when whites set up about 11 railroad lines, they got about 6 miles of free land on both sides of the railroad across the United States. So the 11 railroad lines picked up over 24 million acres of free land. And so in the final conclusion, whites picked up over 1 billion, with a B, not with an M, 1 billion acres of free land. And that meant that, and on that free land, that meant the timber, the land, the gold, the silver, everything of value. And that constituted the basis of wealth in this country for whites. That's why right now, from Boston or Connecticut all the way to San Diego, California, whites own and control almost 99% of all the wealth in this country. And then most of it was founded in the land. And yet by the same token, after whites got that 1 billion acres of free land, black folk couldn't get 1 acre of free land. And so that's why your wealth has been maldistributed. And the basis of it is the land in this country. And
so when you talk about that distribution, has there been anything, have we made any progress at all on that maldistribution? In what ways?